There are very few people control the world. Very few people. People will be staggered how few. Jewish people who are questioning the Israeli treatment of the Palestinians, which is horrific, are being targeted by these ultra-Zionist hate groups. You don't speak for us. That is the greatest concentration of surveillance and censorship power the world has ever seen.
Before we dive in, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell.
We've reached the point now where there is a global network of ultra-Zionist groups that answer to Israel and the Netanyahu regime currently, who are targeting anyone who is in any way questioning the fact that Israel is not God's gift to humanity in every last thing that it does. This does not only include the general population. The ones they focused most on are Jewish people. Jewish people who are questioning the Israeli treatment of the Palestinians, which is horrific, are being targeted by these ultra-Zionist hate groups. I say hate groups because their modus operandi is to get the public to hate their targets, to silence them. And it's extraordinary how easy it is. I'll tell you how easy it is with me. They go to, and I'm talking a ridiculously few people that don't represent the Jewish community at all, just claim to. They'll go to a venue and they'll say, this man Icke, he's going to come and say it's all the Jews, he's anti-Semitic, he's a racist, he's going to say the Jews are doing this, the Jews are doing that. I ain't said any of that. The venue does not then come to me and say, look, these people are saying you're going to say this. And I'd say, look, go on my website and you'll see a video, a 10-hour talk that I've been doing for the last 2 years. Show me where there's any anti-Semitism or racism in it. Quite the opposite, because what I'm saying is, ironically, we need to put down these irrelevant manufactured fault lines of race and religion and culture and color that divide us and realize that we're actually all one consciousness having different experiences. And that we've got caught in the illusion that the experiences of who we are when we are that consciousness that's having the experiences. So I am presenting what you could easily call the ultimate non-racist view of life, because I say race is a nonsense and an irrelevance and an illusion. Same with all of it, religion. But the venues never check. They just say, "Oh well, okay, we're not going to have him then." Yeah. Saying that, even though he's not going to say it, and they cancel the event. Now, when a venue says to these people who orchestrate emails and letters, all orchestrated, same few people every time, the venue says, "No, hold on, freedom of speech, mate. We're not having. No. He's going to be allowed to speak." What they then do is up the ante. They start saying to the venue, well, these are the consequences for you if you do this or whatever. And then some of them go to the police and they say, oh, this could be very, very dangerous to the audience and the staff because there's going to be big protests against this person. And the police in Leicestershire, one of them, the guy that handled it, was a counter-terrorist officer, right? You're laughing. So did I. Mm. So I went to meet this guy. They go to the venue, right? And they say, he's got danger to the staff, danger to the audience, and one of the things they said to the venue was, well, they could damage your reputation, right? And I'm thinking, now I thought the police were there to defend freedom of speech, not persuade a bloody venue that it'd be better in their interest if they destroyed it, right? Mm. And then what these ultra-Zionist hate groups do is they then contact the media when a venue cancels because of them, and they say the event's been cancelled because the venue realised he's a Holocaust denier and an anti-Semite. Of course, the media then repeat that, and you see a headline like Holocaust denier David Icke's event cancelled. And when this has appeared, on these mainstream news sites on the internet. I've contacted them, every single one. I don't usually, but in this case you have to. And I've said, before I call my lawyers, would you please send me the evidence you have to support that headline? In every single case, bar none, they take it down in minutes because they have none. All they've done is repeated what these ultra-Zionist hate groups have said. And what we are now seeing, and there's been a number of examples this week as we speak, is more and more Jewish people are coming out and saying to these about these hate groups, you don't speak for us. There's one guy on the internet, a story that was broke today, a Jewish man who did a video on YouTube, basically saying to these ultra-Zionist hate groups, I'm Jewish and you don't speak for me. In fact, you're causing anti-Semitism by what you're doing. He had his video deleted, right? So when you've got Jewish people speaking out against Israel and the Israeli government, that's really bad because it's very hard to paint them as racist against Jews when they are Jews. So they are targeted even more fiercely by these ultra-Zionist hate groups than people who aren't Jewish. And their freedom of speech is disappearing. And what we need to do is come together, all of us who are being blatantly defamed and misrepresented by these groups. And they are very few in number, but very well funded. And jointly expose what they're doing, because they are destroying freedom of speech in an ever-gathering way, week after week after week. And if it goes on, there will be no body who can speak in public and challenge the official narrative, because they'll all be banned. That's where we're going.
How do you feel the freedom of speech is for us in society, and what do you think's wrong about it, and what do you want to change about it?
Well, I'd like to have some. I think that would be a good start.
Well, you can say what you want here. So.
You see, the thing is that what is freedom of speech? It's the freedom to speak. So I read a politician today saying, I agree with freedom of speech, but there are limits. Well, there's no freedom of speech then. Freedom of speech is the freedom to speak. If anyone's not allowed to speak, then it's not freedom of speech, it's freedom to conform to certain parameters of what are acceptable. And then what that's doing is giving power to some authority to decide what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. And as we see, and we're seeing it massively now, once you give that power to an authority, it then starts interpreting what can and cannot be said in a way that squeezes and squeezes and squeezes more and more of what cannot be said. This is what political correctness is about. What is political correctness? It's simply manipulating the target population to silence itself, so those in authority don't have to. It's ridiculous. Now, people say, well, you say that people can say anything. Well, yes, I do, and I'll tell you why. There are laws against incitement to racism, incitement to hatred, incitement to violence. There are laws against that.
Are they laws you agree with?
Yeah, and if people use their freedom of speech to incite those things, then there are laws to deal with that, and those laws should deal with it. What I'm saying is, once you start censoring freedom of speech at the point of delivery, or even more sinister, before the point of delivery, by banning people from the right to have access to the communication networks or speak in public, that is what the fascists do. What did fascists do in Nazi Germany? What does any tyranny do? It wants to silence those that are exposing the tyranny and have a different version of events to the tyranny. So what did the Nazis do? They burnt the books. They banned the meetings of people who were exposing the Nazis. And now in this inverted world, we have people who call themselves progressives, and they seem to have this extraordinary self-delusion that progressive mentality has something to do with being liberal, when it's not. It's the opposite of liberal. They are the ones that claim to be wanting people to be inclusive and to have diversity.
But maybe on their terms.
When they're destroying diversity, and they have become the new tyranny. They have become the new Nazis.
Rob Moore here with something I think you'll love, the brand new Rob.Team premium platform. If you would love exclusive access to insider content, Ask Me Anything lives weekly, bonus content, previously sold for masterclasses, an amazing committed community, go to www.rob.team right now.
If you look at what this progressive mentality is doing in silencing people and deciding in their arrogance what people can and cannot say and what opinion they can and cannot have, you look at what the Nazis did, you look at what the communist Soviet Union did in terms of freedom of speech, and you show me the difference between them. There is none. And it's this self-deluded arrogance which goes like this: I am right, therefore anyone who says something different must therefore be wrong. And by definition, because they are wrong and I am right, their freedom of speech to be wrong doesn't need to be taken into account. That's how the mentality goes. What I say is, I don't agree with them, I don't agree with them, I don't agree with them. I do agree with them. But I don't want to silence any of them. It's also the fact that humanity has been hoaxed on a monumental scale in relation to freedom of expression and freedom of information. And it's been done out of an area that I call the devil's playground. It's better known as Silicon Valley. What's happened is, when you do the research, intelligence organizations like the CIA in the United States, the National Security Agency, and the Pentagon through an organization called DARPA, the technological development arm of the Pentagon, they began seed funding technology and companies to develop what has become now known as the internet, and an outgrowth of that, what became known as social media, and the search engine technology, which eventually became known as Google. All those were seed funded by this military intelligence network. There are very few people control the world. Very few people. People will be staggered how few.
How many?
Well, I'm going to come to that in terms of it's fewer now than ever before, and why. But a lot of people have said in response to that, a few people can't control the world. There's too many people. It's not possible. Well, now we have a handful of people, which you could probably get on 10 fingers, or 2 hands, that control Google, control YouTube, owned by Google, control Facebook, that absolutely dominate the information that most people see or don't see. We have a concentration of power in Silicon Valley, a very small area of the world, that is the greatest concentration of surveillance and censorship power the world has ever seen. So that's where what we're facing in terms of freedom of speech. It's disappearing. In fact, it doesn't exist. There is no freedom of speech. By the definition of freedom of speech is the freedom to speak your opinion and not have it censored and not have it banned.
So I hope you enjoyed the video. Now, if you like this, we have a full deep interview, the uncut, unedited version. So if you want to watch that, the link is below. But first, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel.